Welcome back to Throttle Back, Rubber Down. Today on TBRD, I'm going to be talking about some of my least favorite attributes of my 2020 BMW S1000XR. I'm going to roll over 2,000 miles on the way to work today, and after getting thoroughly acquainted with this bike and all sorts of riding, I thought it might be nice to kind of hit on some of those things that possibly could use a little bit of improvement. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you're no stranger to the trend on YouTube, the 5 things I hate about my insert motorcycle name, vehicle name. I don't think there's anything I can say that I honestly hate. Wow, look at that sunrise. That is better than usual. Beautiful. Very nice. Absolutely gorgeous, flat as glass on the water there. Wow. You know, I never get sick of it. This drive into work. Ooh, windshield's looking a little rough. Just washed this. I'm thinking a lot of humidity in the air to get some polish out. At any rate, yes, so if you're watching this, we're all no stranger to the 5 things I hate videos. There's nothing I hate about this 2020 BMW S1000XR, but that is not to say that I don't have my share of grievances. I've got a couple after about 2,000 miles on this machine. I'm going to talk about those as we ride into work this morning. So, probably my biggest grievance, the first grievance, where are we going here, Mr. Semi? Share the road. Yeah, 2 hands on the wheel, or no hands on the wheel. Probably my biggest grievance about this bike, and it might seem minor, but it's multiple times a day sort of issue, is the short side stand, or the short kickstand. I noticed the very first time I sat on this bike, this exact bike, it was the first 2020 S1000XR I ever threw a leg over. I remember thinking to myself, you know, it weighs in at under 500 pounds, which was a weight saving over my Ducati, my last Multistrada. It's several hundred pounds lighter than my Triumph Trophy SE was. But I swore when I got on it, it was harder to get up off the side stand than even that huge Triumph Trophy. And that is because the kickstand is short. So it has an incredible lean onto the kickstand. I talked about it in my walk-around video and my first review, which you can see linked up here. But it's something that, I mean, it gets you every time, right? And so I've kind of developed this specific way of getting on the bike and getting it off of the side stand, just so, you know, I've said I've got some lower back issues, some back issues, so it can aggravate it if you're not careful, because you're really, it's quite a load to get off the side stand. So that's grievance number 1. Grievance number 2, if I turn around briefly, this guy right here, a top box, top case, BMW factory direct top case. What is my grievance with it? Well, it is 31 liters, which is significantly smaller, but that's not really my grievance. My issue is I got this wonderful, I think they call it like an ice gray. I really like this color. I had a choice between this and the red, but I like this color a lot. And I got this color. And I knew when I got it what the issue was with the top case and the luggage, but I'm still scratching my head on this one, BMW. My top case, and if I want to get the panniers, they don't have a color match. So if I have the red bike, you can get it in matching red, but there is no color match currently for this 2020 BMW S1000XR luggage in ice gray. So it's primer, which truthfully doesn't look too bad, but that's a bit ridiculous. I was told, you know, my dealership said we'd be happy to get in the paint and paint it for you, but by the time you get done spending, I don't know what it is, but the panniers and the top case, pretty expensive. The top case, I think by the time you're all said and done, It's closing in between $700, $800 US. That's a lot of money, and I'm certainly not interested in spending another $400 to have everything painted. It probably would have been a bargain for what the paint is what they charge you. So, you know, that might be an absolute deal breaker for this color bike for a lot of people out there. If you are, what I should point out too is I say, you know, my grievance is, this is relative, right? But if you're going to spend $20,000 on a motorcycle, which I've said in the past, as much as I love riding, is certainly not a necessity. I don't think too many people can argue that. I think there should be much of this bike is super refined, to the point that some folks will say that it lacks character. I disagree. Plenty of character in this engine, but it's super refined. But its details, like the non-matching luggage, that's a big one. So that's grievance number 2. Grievance number 3. I could probably show you if I edit to a point in this video. Perhaps I will. Finding neutral. I don't think I have ridden on a bike that is so hard to find neutral in. No complaints about the transmission. It is a huge, huge, huge plus. But when you're sitting in the garage or sitting in an intersection, finding neutral is a little tricky. A little bit tricky. So we got that. Let's see. Another grievance that I have, and this goes back to, again, if you're spending $20,000 on a motorcycle, it should pretty much come equipped with all the bells and whistles. So you're going to see these next 2 grievances center around that fact. The first would be this, and this is very minor, obviously, but the gauges themselves are not backlit. And at this price point, I would think that the gauges would come backlit. On my 2017 Multistrada, my gauges were in fact backlit. Now, I'll be honest and tell you, mostly it was kind of a geeky nerd feature, because even at night, while they were backlit, it could help you kind of locate them, but you couldn't read them, so you still had to really know your controls. So I will readily admit, having backlit gauges isn't helping me maneuver my controls. I already know where they're at, but it's a nice feature. It looks nice, and it does help you at least give an idea where things are at when you're riding at nighttime or in the dark in the morning. So no backlit gauges. That's grievance number 4. This next grievance is another big one. I think it's on par with the luggage issue, and that is that this bike does come equipped with the adaptive headlight technology, and I will tell you, having had the adaptive headlight for the first time on my Ducati, it's a nice feature. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's also referred to as a cornering headlight, so that as you're cornering, I don't know the mechanics of it very well. I think there's something to do there with some mirrors and different things, but basically it'll illuminate through the turn as the bike leans over. It kind of triggers the mechanism. Again, I don't know the mechanics of it, but basically it'll illuminate through the turn, and it really is a nice feature to have, especially if you're doing any significant amount of riding at night or in the dark. I think it adds a lot of safety. I will also, again on this one, admit I'm not the kind of guy who rides a ton in the dark, and when I do, I'm not looking to be ripping through turns, but you don't need to be ripping through turns to benefit from extra light illumination in sight. Obviously, we know the more we can see, the safer we're going to be. So where's my grievance with the adaptive headlight on this 2020 BMW S1000XR here in the United States? My grievance is this: BMW didn't get the proper clearances from the powers that be, and I forget, I'd have to double check. I don't know if that's the National Highway Transportation Authority, whoever it is who does the permitting process. So the long and the short of it is, even though that I have the package and the trim level that comes with the adaptive headlight, here currently in the United States, this bike doesn't have the adaptive headlight on it. And that is another big grievance when you stop and think about the fact that I'm paying for it, but the paperwork wasn't done, I guess, is my understanding. Also, that's what was shared with me at the dealer when I inquired into this. I was confused as I looked through the reviews and what I read in the literature, and then when I've had this bike out at night. We'll do a more thorough nighttime review. I've had some questions about this TFT and is it distracting at night? The short answer to that question is no, it is not. It's also adjustable for brightness, but you're not going to really have an issue there. On my last bike, the Multistrada, the TFT would automatically go from like a white clear background to a dark background, and the dark background was actually for riding at night. This background is dark. I would suggest if there was concerns about it, some folks might think, is it hard to see during the daytime? It very clearly is not, and it is not distracting at all at night, but we'll take a closer look at that in the future when we do a nighttime review. So yeah, as far as grievances, some of those, depending on your personality, may seem a little bit more major or minor. I will say none of them really affect me day-to-day riding the bike, with the exception of that darn side stand and how hard it is to get up off the side stand. But like I said, you can work around that, and if you're a little bit taller or possibly don't have a trick back like I do, it might not be an issue at all. But you're going to work a little bit when it comes to getting up off that side stand because of how short it is. All in all, though, being honest, I absolutely love this bike. It's got way more in the plus column than it does in the negative column or grievance column. You may be surprised that I didn't point out the seat or the vibrations, which so many people have talked about, particularly in this generation as far as the seat is concerned, but the vibrations on the previous generation. I've reviewed that pretty extensively. I've ridden this bike for 5 hours at a crack on the interstate, all sorts of different riding. I mean, are there vibrations there? I suppose. You'll have to check out those other videos. I think they're a moot point. I think BMW got them sorted with the rubber inserts and the bar risers. But I suppose if you're coming off a different style of bike, you might say it vibrates. I don't think so. Not at all. I mean, it is not. It is a non-issue. The seat, I've covered that extensively. It is very scooped out, but it is very comfortable. Down for you, Mr. Police Officer. Don't want you to do a Yui. So yeah, the seat, not an issue. It is super scooped out though. It does hold you in a pretty firm riding position. I'm not going to say there aren't more comfortable seats, because there certainly are, but it's not an issue. I find it's much more comfortable actually after you've ridden it for a while too than when you first just sit on it. Yeah, all in all though, I love this bike. It's a wonderful machine. I'm going to be doing some more specific videos about this bike. I've had some requests for that, so we will be doing that as we get into the future. The next video that we're going to shoot is definitely going to be focused on this BMW S1000XR, so that if that is a topic of interest for you, tune back in. If not, I promise it's going to be fun anyways, so tune back in and check it out. Alright, that's going to do it for this morning. We've got to get our head wrapped around work and what we've got coming up there. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I please ask, like the video, leave me a comment. Love to interact with you. Like, subscribe. And as we get ready to go through these turns, until next time, keep the throttle back, the rubber down, and enjoy the ride.